Hello friends, welcome to JavaEE JSP tutorial. In this video we are going to look at JSTL and how to use Bean. So previously we used Bean, and if you remember when we worked on the database setup, at that time we used the Bean, and even before that also we used Bean. By this moment you were aware of the useBean tag, and using that useBean tag we accessed the JavaBean inside the JSP. In this video we will see how to use Java standard tag library JSTL to access the bean. Here are the prerequisites. So to work with this example, you have to know how to prepare the development environment. So here, if you see, we are setting up the wildfly environment with Eclipse. You have to look at the very first video in the playlist 06. So this playlist is for Java Servlet. So this one is optional, and if you want you can watch all these 28 series. Why? Because here in this JSP tutorial sometimes we will use a servlet also. So if you have some basic knowledge of servlet, that will serve the purpose here. So here there are a chain of video which tells how to set up the database environment. And here we actually access the data from PUBs database of the Microsoft supplied sample DB. We actually use titles table in the PUBs database. So all these 4 video tells how to set up the SQL Server environment with Eclipse. Maybe you can skip this one, but 1, 3 and 4 is required for this video. That means this video assumes that you already have the database environment set up. And once all this is done, you can continue with this video, or you can completely skip this database part, but you have to create an array and supply the data yourself from the cache. All right. Now in this video, before that, if you see here, when we are setting up the database, the final part, here we used a JSP page and we used the useBean tag, JSP useBean tag, and we accessed the bean that retrieves data from the database. Now we are going to use the same bean but using the JSTL tags. That's what we are going to see in this video. So this is the JSP file which we used in the database setup tutorial, and if you see here, this is where we are using the JSP useBean, right? JSP useBean, book titles, then we are telling what is the bean type, and we are telling the scope is request scope. So here we are using the bean. That means we are creating the instance of the bean and we are using it. So I mean we are copying it from the request scope. So, and if you see here book titles.size, then we are iterating through our array list collection of title bean. So the bean here is a title, so we use the title bean, and we will iterate through it, and we will get a book title, type and price, everything. So this is JSP useBean, and here we are ending it, and you can see there are a lot of scriptlet tag here. So this is for opening and closing the brackets, and there are some scriptlet here to access the bean properties, and here to close the bracket we have one more scriptlet. So here are the expression language, Java JSP expression language. Here we are using Java JSP expression language, and this percentage equal to will access this bean and sends appends it with the output content. That means book title dot get book title, which will return a string, and that gets appended with the h4 tag, which is already part of this HTML. So we already know about this tag. So this is simply the JSP expression language EL, and here we are evaluating the expression. And this is one scriptlet, 3 expression evaluation scripts, then one more scriptlet. So our goal here is to convert this. So the file name you can refer it as booktitles.jsp. So now in this video we will create one more version that will purely use the JSTL, and it will access the JavaBean. When we go to the demo, you will get a good picture of it. So as already told, the prerequisite is watching the setting up the database connection. There are 4 video chains, right? So on that 4 video chain, the 4th video explains this code. Here I am just placing it once again, stating that the previously we used JSP usebean and some scriptlets in between. Now here this is just a normal HTML head, all those stuff. And if you see here, so here we are going to use the second version of book titles or print book titles. So I forgot the name. We will, when we are going to see, we will see what is the name we used. I think it's booktitles.jsp. We will use a second version here that will use the JSTL. So we use the JSTL tag here. So this stuff we already saw in our previous 4 videos. We used the basics of JSTL. We used JSTL tags, set, out, all those tags. So with the prefix C, we used previously out tag. We used a set tag. This is to set a variable. And we also looked at if condition, for each, and choose when, then all those stuff. So by this time you are aware of this tag. So here we are just printing a h2 tag, and we set some background. Background color is a gray color, and we say book title using JSTL library and JSP expression. If you see here, we are using the for each loop. Since we are using the JSTL tags, this time we are not using these scriptlets. So we are not worried about opening and closing curly braces for the for loop, all those stuff. So we simply state that C for each variable book, and this one is book titles. So actually this book title is set as a request content attribute. So in the request context, we set this book title. Once we go to demo, you know, or once you watched, I mean, if you watched the previous, I mean the prerequisite video for SQL Server setup. There we created a servlet, and the servlet will set this book titles, which is nothing but the collection of title bean instances. So this is simply a array list. This one is the array list, and array list is nothing but here in this example, each array list is a title bean collection. So the for each loop, previously we used for each loop to iterate over the to form a for loop, we used the for each with the begin and end. Here if you see, we are using the for each, that means from JSTL library, and items is the attribute, and using this attribute we are telling a collection. That means we are giving a collection. So we know that this is kind of accessing the variable, right? So we will access the variable using dollar curly braces, then we will give variable name. So this is how we will access the variable. So items equal to, we are giving the variable content. So book titles is nothing but the array list, and the array list contains a title instance. So title is nothing but JavaBean. So the title JavaBean instance, array of title JavaBean instance is what called this book titles. So this book titles is nothing but a request attribute that is set by the servlet. So once we go to the demo, that time you will understand this. And here where we are giving it as a book, that means this for each loop iterate through each collection, and the for each tag is smart enough to understand what is the type of each item here. So this book here is nothing but our title bean. So in each iteration we retrieve one title bean and we assign it to book, and that way, so this is our for each header tag. And in the body, if you see, for the first paragraph we are setting a background color as a silver, so this is just a style. Then book title, this is HTML, and here if you see, we are accessing the JSTL content. So we are accessing this as a variable. So variable is defined here, dollar, the same syntax, dollar, open curly braces, book. Here book is an object of type title, so it's a title bean. Then from title bean we are accessing the property book title. So that's what we are specifying it to this JSTL. Now this JSTL is smart enough to go ahead and call the get version of our title bean. So if you go to our title bean instance, in title beans it will call the get version of the title. Similarly, we are retrieving the book type, and you can see here we are just accessing the JSTL variable book inside our for each loop. Also, one more thing what you have to notice here is, so this is opening and closing tag for our for each, and here we are accessing the content using this notation, dollar curly braces and book dot book title property we are accessing, and it will make a call to, this code will make a call to get version of this book title, get book title or get title, whatever we define. So since the field name is book title, it will be get book title. Alright, so get type, get book price, like that it will be. Now let's compare this with the previous version of book title. There we used the scriptlet, and if you see here there is no scriptlet tag, but previously we used a scriptlet tag. This is one scriptlet and this one is one scriptlet, just to close the for loop. Here you opened it, right? And in between we used JSP EL, expression language. So here we are using the JSTL variable evaluation or expression evaluation. So here we are directly accessing the variable. That means the dollar open trace is this is also a variable, but it's actually an object. So since it's an object, we are accessing the property. That's all. So this is version 1, and version 1 is using the JSP tags, or we can call it is using some 1 to 3 or more scriptlets, and this one is purely using the Java standard tag library and removes all the scriptlets code. Now it's a demo time. Let's go to the demo. Okay, so the JSP file name is displaybook, and all this code were already explained in our previous video. So now let me quickly go through it, and if you see, they have a servlet. So the displaybook Java will connect it to the database. So this is what we covered in the SQL Server DB setup. When we wrote the sample, we used this sample, and this is the query we are executing on the database. Select title type price from titles table of the pubs database. After that, once we have the record set in hand, we are iterating through it. List titles equal to new array list. Here we are creating an array list. After that, here we are creating the book title, so which is nothing but our title bin. And if you come back here, this is our title bin. So it's mapping to the database field, whatever we are retrieving. So while we are iterating through the record, we create one bean instance, we set its property, then we populate the array list, right? And if you, okay, so let's see what the servlet is doing. And so request.set attribute, if you see, whatever we populated here, titles.add we are making call, right? Titles is nothing but a array list. List titles equal to new array list, or you can use a array list also here in the left side. Okay, all right. So but it's actually an array list instance, so this is runtime polymorphism. And titles we are appending, we are iterating through each record and we are appending the titles, and the titles we are setting it to the request attribute, and we are giving the name for the request attribute as book titles. Then we are creating the request dispatcher for displaybook.jsp. Then we are forwarding the request and response. So this is HTTP servlet, right? This do get request and response, we are receiving it here, and we are delegating this call to our JSP page, displaybook.jsp. And displaybook.jsp, if you see, we are using a lot of scriptlet. Now we are going to create our JSTL version. So here if you see, we are using all these scriptlet and page directive tags. So now we are going to use only one here, which is a tag library. After that, we will convert this for loop as a tag library stuff. So previously we learned tag libraries using JSP JSTL variable, JSTL if condition, JSTL choose when, and JSTL for each. So all these are some basic stuff just to give an idea of how we can use the JSTL, that means Java standard library. Now this is our display books, right? We will create one more version of display books. New JSP file, display books 2. So the version 2 we are creating now. Next, new JSP file and finish. So let me keep both versions side by side. So in display books, this is a Java file, and we need display books, and if you see here we are using the import statement because here we are using the Java language. To form the for loop we are using Java language. Here we are using Java language, right? Here we are not using any Java language for JSTL version. So what we will do, we will just define our tag library, and we will tell that we are going to use Java tag library from this URI, and we provided prefix as C here. Then inside body we just keep some h2 tag. Let me save this. After this we use for each from the standard tag library, and you can look at the difference. So here it is using a lot of mix up Java language, HTML Java language, or JSP expression language that is using a Java syntax, right? And the Java syntax of import of this Java objects. Here if you see, it's purely a JSTL. We specified tag library, and it looks like a complete HTML syntax, right? So h2 tag, then we specified a for each tag, then there is no expression language like this. Book title dot get book title. Here we are directly specifying the property book dot book title. You see the difference? Now this is our second version. So it will print book title, then book title type, book type, price, the price, and we can give some space here. All right. So the format is slightly different in this version. Here we used a h4, then a 2 paragraph tag. Here we are using a 3 paragraph tag, and book title colon, like that we are using. Here book name type price, book title type price, same thing, but here it is using a silver background. We applied some style. Here there is no style, just a h4 tag. All right, so this one you already saw. Just want to show the difference between using the scriptlet and using the standard tag library stuff. Now we have to go to our display book. Why? Because it is still using the previous version, right? Now we will change this to use the second version, that means a JSTL version. So rest everything is same. If you see here, it creates the array list, then it sets the array list to the request attribute and names this as book titles. That's why here if you come, we are using the same name, book title. Since it's in the request context, the JSTL will understand what object we are referring. Why? Because here we already make a delegation, right? We send request object here, request and response, and request already contains a book title object, and book title, this is the a string or a map name that maps to titles, and titles is nothing but a collection of title, and the collection type is array list here. All right, so that's why here book title refers the servlet pushed object. So servlet is pushing that to the request attribute, request REQ. If you see here, it is HTTP servlet request, and we are pushing it here. Then we are delegating it to the displaybook.jsp. So if you watched that SQL Server setup, it will be easy now. And if you are directly jumping here, yeah, it may be slightly confusing. Also, I'm going slightly fast, and I'm not explaining everything here. And we are stating that that we are creating the second version of a book. And what you can see here is, this is the script like previous version. We used Java syntax, and here we completely eliminated that Java syntax, and we are using the JSTL stuff. So these are all the JSTL way of referring the variable, right? The variable here is book, and book is nothing but the book titles single entity. Book titles is array list, and array list of title bean. So that means book here is a title bean. So we are accessing the title bean. So this is the syntax to access the variable. That means here we are accessing the title bean and its property. Title bean's property, book title, type, and book price. All right, now we will go ahead and start the server. Then we will publish this. Okay, Wildfly server is started, and just a cross check to know we are using second version. Yes. Now we can directly go ahead and run this servlet. So this is the servlet, right, which retrieves the data from database and delegates the call to our second version of display books. Now we will run this, run on server, next, finish. So it deployed, then it is running it. Okay, we will display this in some of the browser, Internet Explorer. So this one is the servlet, display books servlet, and if you see, book title using JSTL library and JSP expression. This is coming from our second version. So this is the header 2 tag, h2 tag, and the next. Okay, so this is the first entry or first record. So in each iteration we are printing 3 properties. So the first property we are setting a background, that's why you are seeing it like this. First paragraph tag, this is plain HTML, book title, part of the paragraph, accessing the variable. Second paragraph content, accessing the variable book, which is nothing but title. All right, now you got an idea of how we can use the JSTL. All right. Yeah. Okay, now we will stop. I will close it, and we will stop here. Undeployed, and then we will stop the server. Okay, server stop. That's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.